daddy was actually from Kennesaw, and I think they got married in around 33 or 34, and we lived over on Nance Road, just on the south side of town down here, in a rental house that belonged to Mr. Lewis Jones, and one of the Jones boys still lives there on that same property. And up where I was raised, after I was 5 years old, we moved up to Fowler Street, up on the north end of town, off of Northside Drive. And that street dead-ended down near 10-Yard Creek. And we spent a lot of time in those woods on that creek. Had a lot of good neighbors, all the Kennedys, the Flanagans, Deans, the Williams, the Odoms, Vaughns, the Waiteses. It was just a good area to grow up in. My mother and her sister worked up here at the Unique knitting mill for years and years. I think my mother worked there about 50 years between having 5 kids and whatever. Oh gosh, my father drove a truck. He was a truck driver like me. It just kind of got in her blood, I guess. He drove for a company in Atlanta called Suetat Incorporated. Back then it was called Suetat Produce, and it ended up being Suetat Incorporated. It got to be a pretty good company. He drove for him for 35 years. When I used to go on trips with my dad, he drove an old gas engine, international truck, no power steering, no power brakes, no air conditioning. When I would go with him, I would just be a kid, and they had a bench seat in them. He would sleep on the seat, and he'd make me a pallet in the floor. I worked a little bit of everything. I mowed grass. 12 years old, I took a regular weekend job for a guy by the name of W.B. Jones. He owned a little drive-in restaurant. It was called the Frosty Treat. But I worked Friday nights, Saturdays, and Sundays, and I got paid $8. But I made pretty good money in tips. I was a car hop. And then and during the summer, I mowed grass during the week. And every once in a while, some good friend or neighbor would come by and see me and stop. We'd put the lawnmower in the trunk of the car and haul it down the road. I'll tell you a little funny story about that drive-in theater. We would go over there, a bunch of us 12, 13 years old, ride our bikes over there and park them in the woods, and we'd go down on the back row and turn up all the speakers wide open. If it's something that we wanted to see, a movie, we'd turn, and we'd climb a tree. We'd get in those pine trees and where we could see. And Mr. Hudson come riding. He had an old Army Jeep. He come riding by one evening or one night and stopped and got out. He's just looking around, and finally he said, "Don't you boys fall out of the trees now and get hurt." Vietnam was going on, and they was drafting guys my age left and right. And I knew it was coming, so I volunteered. I didn't want to join for 3 years, but somebody told me you could volunteer for the draft for 2 years, and that's what I did. Yeah, I was in the 23rd Infantry Division, and that was part of the Americal Division. And the Americal Division got started in the 40s in New Caledonia. And our base camp was in a little place called Chulai. And I was a ground infantry soldier the whole 12 months that I was there. I didn't have much desire to go in no plant and go to work. I just didn't figure it was for me. I was working down here for a guy named Gene Highfield at an Amoco gas station, doing mechanic work and whatever, running a tow truck. Anyway, small tow truck. Anyway, this guy, his name was Sharon McGarity. He's from here in Ackworth. He lives in Dallas now. He was down there one day, and we was talking. He said, "Eddie, you know what?" He said, "There's pretty good money in driving a truck now." He got me a job driving a truck, and I went to Savannah and back with him one trip and drove part of the way down and back. Monday morning, I was on the weekend, and Monday morning he called me. He said, they got an opening up here on one of these new trucks if you want to job. That was in 75, and Been going strong ever since. And truck driving was just exactly what I needed. You didn't have nobody looking over your shoulder. You kind of was, once you got on the road, you was your own boss. In '06, after the Suatec guy that I worked for, he died on Christmas Day of '05, and his son was taking over, and I worked till August of '06. And then I sold my truck, come home, took the rest of the year off, and then I went to work in a little place in Carsville and worked driving local for them for a couple, 3 years. And I retired in 2010. Well, you've heard a lot of people say it, I'm sure. Ackworth is a good place to be raised, go to school, live. Good people. You ask somebody for a favor, and you get it. And if somebody asks you for a favor, you're gonna try your best to do it.